Hello there and welcome to the channel for PreApp, the reinvention of the pre-application service, where today we're going to give you another example of some information that we gave to a PreApp user after they submitted a pre-application submission to us via preapp.co.uk in relation to their intention to bring forward an application for a residential dwelling in Sevenoaks. So this particular client was interested in bringing forward a green principal dwelling on a parcel of land that sits outside of a settlement boundary but pretty close to it on a greenfield parcel of land in the Sevenoaks district. Now, we reviewed the case. They provided some information making use of our online portal at preapp.co.uk, and we concluded that statistically this type of application within the Sevenoaks area succeeded around 75% of the time. However, in most circumstances those applications have been thoroughly prepared and they've gone through a systematic approach so as to make sure that they accord with planning policy. A lot of those applications have also taken advantage of a scenario whereby Sevenoaks itself do not have a 5-year housing supply. So on land that they have that sits outside of the green belt that is strategically targeted by developers, they are able to demonstrate a suitability of bringing forward new residential dwellings outside of settlement boundaries. Now, in this particular case, that isn't the same circumstance. The land itself was sitting both in an A and B location within the green belt and had a number of protected tree protection orders on trees dotted around its outer boundaries. So I considered that the position statistically presented by the data was slightly disingenuous within the context of this application, and I actually considered the chances of getting planning permission based upon the information provided and the ideas that the applicant was seeking to implement to sit at around 20%. In this particular case, we provided a rationale as to why we come to that conclusion given the clear departure from the collection of data provided by the local planning authority and the statistical chances of getting planning permission off the back of it. We gave some recommendations as to what they could do. I considered, for example, that the one opportune situation would be to provide a very high quality bespoke submission that sought to achieve an outstanding delivery of architectural quality to an area so as to essentially identify what we call a paragraph 80 development. However, the downside of this particular approach is the cost and processes associated with it. So the substantial architectural cost, the requirements to meet certain aspects, and whether that cost risk was still applicable. In this particular circumstance, I advised the client that if they went down that particular route, the chances of success would increase to a position in balance, so around 50%, and ultimately will come down to the subjective viewpoint of the local planning authority on whether the development brought forward would meet the excellent and innovative standards of architectural design required to invoke that particular policy. But what was ultimately concluded that we felt that statistically and professionally speaking, the client stood a very limited chance of getting planning permission based upon the circumstances associated with the case they presented to us at PreApp. Now, in principle, whilst the feedback to the applicants in this instance was relatively negative, and whilst we did try to provide some information to improve their chances, ultimately they've gone through a process to limit their cost risk. They've contacted PreApp, they've had their advice within 3 days, and that has essentially given them clarity at the very earliest stage on the chances of achieving planning permission. PreApp is an online tool that provides you with a clear understanding of the cost risk associated with your potential planning application or project, and I recommend that you take advantage of the service by visiting preapp.co.uk.